How about one thing you do that other contractors would think you're crazy for doing? But do you ever get any flack for that focus? Thank you for joining us for another episode of the Modern Contractor Podcast. Today we have Ryan Heath with us, and he owns Right Hand Roofing. And I'm going to let him introduce himself and kind of tell you a little bit more about their company, how long he's been doing it, what they actually do. Ryan, take the floor.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you having me on. Was looking forward to getting to talk to you guys. I'm Ryan Heath. I've owned Right Hand Roofing and Gutters since 2019. We are a roofing gutter, exterior company. I'd say that our main focus is driven towards roofing restoration, but we're kind of we can do it all, exterior wise.
I just noticed something. This is way off topic, but the furniture behind you.
Yeah.
I have that on our dock at the lake, the exact set.
It sits well. Like many things in my house, I put that thing together, and it's taken all the kids, jumping from it.
No, but I have the exact set. It's right on the dock, and it's set up almost exactly as you have it. So, okay, that's really irrelevant, but I just noticed it.
The next time I have a seat on it, man, I'll think of you.
Okay, and then I'm going to be sitting on mine tonight, so I'll be doing the same. So we are starting to kind of start the podcast off with a quote and get your reflections on it, what it makes you think. And so today I have a quote from Seth Godin. Are you familiar with him at all?
I'm not.
He's kind of a marketing genius. He has a blog that he does every day, and I think he's on like 10,000 some blogs. He does one every day. It's a short little blog, but it's kind of but he's written a lot of marketing books and branding books, but here's what he had to say. In a crowded marketplace, fitting in is failing. In a busy marketplace, not standing out is the same as being invisible. What's that make you think of in reference to your business or our industry?
Of our biggest core focus is to be different, right? It is a saturated market. It's something that we've seen kind of, really, really take place within the past, I'd say 5 years or so. Out there, a lot of exterior companies out there. So what you do different to set yourself apart from those guys, I think is extremely important. I think it all starts internally, is where it begins. It's lots of stuff can be equated to like a pyramid, right? It starts from the top and it bleeds down in to the business. So I think that, as owners, especially in this industry, trying to look at different ways to be different, to stand out is huge. Organic growth, we find that one of our largest methods of customer acquisition is just through the customer referrals and getting to meet people and talk to people and trying to be different, right? Trying to be real, obviously be real people, not be too salesy, but be different and let people see that in us.
So we'll go back to some differentiation here in a little bit. But as you, from 2019 to today, what have been some, there's always a breakthrough or there's a moment that's hard, like hiring the next person or getting yourself out of the day-to-day somewhat so you can, grow the business. What is something that you specifically have had to kind of talk yourself into during this time and take that next step? Because a lot of contractors fear that next step. And it sounds like you're trying to, grow a business where a lot of people stay stagnant where they're at. But what's one thing that you really kind of had to push yourself to do and take a look at and do a self-assessment? I need to do this, but it's a hard step.
I think trust is the biggest. To take people who you can trust and put them in positions that allow you to get into a seat that helps you, kind of scale, take your business into the next steps. I once had somebody tell me, Ryan, nobody's going to care about your business the way that you do, and that came from a rep, and he was high producing, and because I was like, I just don't understand. I don't understand in this circumstance, why it's like this. And he said, stop expecting people to care about it the way that you do. And that was kind of big for me. And it allowed me to, look at who I have, around us, that I feel comfortable saying, that they care on a high enough level, right? That I can take a step back and allow them to do their job. Letting go on the reins, right? Is I think was, some of the toughest mental to get through.
And I would agree with you 100%. And I had a lot of people in my life say, they're employees. They're just employees. They'll never care. And I disagree wholeheartedly. If you hire the right people and you give them the right mission and they think like you in any way, shape, or form, you can get a team of people that is doing exactly what you want, taking care of the customer. And I'm lucky to have that in my home improvement company. I got 44 people, and they're all every day doing what's best for the company, not what's best for them, right. Not what's best for anything else, but other than what's best for the customer. And that's right. So I disagree with the philosophy, but many in our industry think that. They think that, well, let's be honest. How long did you have to do everything? How many years was it everything going through you?
I take on a lot of responsibility. I would say more on a mental capacity, so much as a day-to-day physical or actions. So I feel that, I'm always in it. I don't think that it ever stops at any point. But to the point of where I could get comfortable saying, hey, I've got a group that allows me to step away and focus on bigger pieces, key pieces of the business, took a couple years. Okay. It took that 2 to 3 year that they talk about all the time, where that's just really where you find out whether or not a business is gonna take off and gonna make it through. It's big. So that 2 years, that was a part of that 2-3 year grind. You're playing marketing, you're playing sales, you're playing, even at times you're playing dumpster disposal. It could be, your collections, your advertising. And to get all that stuff flowing and in place takes the hardest work is in that 2 to 3 year range.
Well, you're way ahead of a lot of your competitors. A lot of them will take 10, 12 years. I mean, it can take a long time, and I'm one, and I got to raise my hand. It took me right around 15 years. Okay. For a decade, I had the same revenue. I was right in between 4 and 4.5 million for like a decade straight, because I was the cog. I was doing everything. I was involved with everything. I had to have everything go through me. When I finally decided, it was just one night, I remember I said, okay, I can't continue to live this way. I can't let this thing run me like this. I need to build a business. From that point on, we've grown 415%, and we got a lot of people and a lot of people taking care of customers. But that's really a hard mental thing for a lot of people in our industry. A lot of people in our industry came from, they're tradesmen, they know how to do the work, and then they start a business and they just run around with their head cut off. And it sounds like, if you were able to, not necessarily get out of everything, but you were able to allow people to do it within 2 to 3 years, you've done better than a lot of people in our industry for sure in timing of that.
I appreciate that compliment, and, lots of work up ahead to do. I think always looking out, not being so stuck in that, in that moment, in that day-to-day grind, and kind of look out ahead. And I've been told before that, obstacles are what you see when you take your eyes off of where you're trying to get to. And then having that group of people, having that core group around you looking through the same lens that you are and able to see, up ahead is how you identify who's going to be strong, internally and have your back.
So let's talk about, we're talking about differentiation. Let's talk about what is one thing, it's going to be 2 questions that are going to both be differentiators, but what's one different thing you do differently that you find great success with?
I'd say that, and shout out to our marketing team. That has been big for us. Going in and developing this company, especially being in the Southeast, it's a heavy insurance-driven, storm-related market. My philosophy going into this is I didn't want to rely on any third party. While we are capable of facilitating and handling it, handling an insurance claim to whatever capacity we need to on a roofing end, we'll do it. But what I didn't want to be reliant on, that industry, on the insurance industry, to be what drove sales for us. So when we went in and looked at it, how can we put ourselves out in front? That way, when the time comes calling and it's needed, we're in a position to be able to be there and service, those customers. And so we dump, and they do a great job. It's actually headed up. It's headed up by my wife. She's been able to get us into places online and get us connected with the right people that help put us out there before anybody else. And that's proven to be kind of where our bread and butter is. That is our number one way of acquiring a customer. You hear the term door knocking, right? Guys go door knock, go try to find, I always say that door knocking can be looked at on many, many different ways. Door knocking can be when you're pumping gas and, you see somebody next door, you just pass them a card and say, hey, I just want to hand you a card. If you ever need my services, I'm there for you. Or, it could be walking into the local insurance agency or the local construction company or local municipality that you're in and talking to those people. Those are all avenues of door knocking. And I kind of leave that up to our guys, and I work with them on how to do that. But our main mission was to get out there and get into as many living rooms as we possibly could ahead of time. So that in the event, the storms come, that's fantastic, but that's not what it is that we're relying on.
Well, that's a very good strategy not to rely on storms, because the guys that do that sometimes forget the retail side of it. And when those storms in Iowa, we haven't had the storms as significantly as we used to over the last couple of years, and it just meant a lot of guys went out of business because they just weren't used to doing the retail side. I'm actually lucky enough that we pretty much don't do any storm damage unless it's a past customer. So we just focus exclusively on the retail. But tell me, can you get a little bit more specific on what marketing things you're actually doing? I mean, are you doing like a radius mailers to job sites, or what types of things are you doing?
Right. So getting in, I would say anyone that's wanting to expand marketing wise and get their name out there a little bit better is, if you don't have experience, I'm not experienced in it. Matter of fact, me and technology, we have a love-hate relationship. I come from a time when we first started doing this where we were three-page carbon copy paper, back in the day. And so to learn the technology has been a walk for me. But if you don't know how to do it, get in with somebody that can help develop the brand if you don't already have it in mind. Come up with that step first, something that's appealing, and then somebody that knows how to get it out there on all the different platforms. For us, our biggest step was SEO. That really was pivotal for us. When you go and you hop online and you say you Google roofer near me or siding near me or restoration near me, whatever that is, because that's what people are doing. Those are the keywords that they're hitting to be, if you're not seeing yourself at the top of, Google Maps or, internet, on Safari around you, if you're not there, you're missing out. You're missing out. You're getting overlooked.
So does your wife work with a particular company?
She does. And again, like I said, because I handle different aspects of the business, she really just talks to me about budgeting. Like, hey, this is what we're gonna, invest in at this time. And she's got a lot of that. I want to say the Phoenix, shout out to Phoenix. I'm not paid by them. I believe that's who has helped develop our website and help with some of the SEO search engine optimization. They've done a great job.
How about one thing you do that other contractors would think you're crazy for doing?
I would say the amount of times myself and our team get together and have meetings together, and sometimes I feel it's crazy. But when you're doing this communication on a high level, because we're not working in a retail store where we get to just a constant talk to one another. We're in an industry where a lot of times we're working from our vehicles or we're working from a job site. And so things can get missed and we miss opportunities to develop. So I would say the amount of time that we spend as a group, as a team, we call them our leadership team, made up of a core group of people that are talking to each other, myself, my sales managers, out here in the field. We schedule once a week. It seems like I'm in meetings all the time between everything, but always communicating at a high level with one another is sometimes I feel like it's too much myself, but I feel like we got good takeaways from everything that we sit down around and throw at the wall.
Okay, I got a question. I'm keep looking at the logo on your shirt. How'd you come up with the name?
Right hand roofing. So to launch a business is really scary in itself for anybody. And we're a faith and family based organization, and so we kind of got together and we're like, how can we develop something that really speaks about what we're doing, what our mission is? And so we came up with right hand, and scripturally it represents strength, the right hand, and it takes a lot of strength to do what it is that we do. And then developing those systems in the business and stuff like that requires a lot of mental strength, a lot of physical strength. The disposal of the materials, the labor on the roof, the 165 degrees out here, the heat index when you're up there working, all the way down to the long hours at the end of days to make deadlines and crunch time. It all relies on a lot of strength, and so that's how we came up with that. If you see our trucks, if you'll see on some of our branding, you'll see Isaiah 41:10, which talks about, do not fear, do not be afraid, for I am your God. I'll strengthen you and I'll uplift you with my righteous right hand. And I'm a firm believer that while I'm the host of this organization and I'm a key piece of it, that this is a platform that's been given to us to be able to work on, and he's blessed us with this opportunity to be able to do it and develop other people, lead other people. And so I'm very thankful for that.
That's awesome. Do you ever, just a quick answer, I don't want to get into too much, but do you ever get any flack for that focus?
I don't think so. Honestly, we get people. I appreciate that question. So, we're cruising down the road the other day. I was in an area that you could tell is definitely a not a very best way to say it is well off area, just kind of a tough area. And car rolls down, and I'm like, I'm like, oh boy, windows rolling down. I got my passenger, and it's a couple that's in the passenger seat, and or one's driving, one's in the passenger seat, and the man's sitting there, and he goes, hey man, he goes, I just wanted to let you know, I just looked up that verse right there. He said, that spoke to me, man. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. So honestly, I would say if anything, we get a lot of encouragement. Times nowadays, there's a lot of doubt going on around in the world that we live in today. And, like I said, if anything, we get a lot of encouragement. So thanks for the question.
Okay. Tell us about one system you installed in your business that allowed you to be the owner and not doing a daily task, or one system that just helped your business grow.
Absolutely. Estimating.
Mm-hmm.
Estimating was a system that, for a long time, we had our project managers or sales guys or whatever somebody may call them, out there going and getting data, getting information, going through all the different processes. I came in and I said, that seems kind of counterproductive. What do we want these guys doing? We want these guys to be out here working with our customers, making sure their needs are getting met, and getting to our next opportunity and going and helping the next person out. So I said, let's take all of that and let's get somebody internally that we believe in and that sees where we want to go, who's qualified to generate these estimates for our guys and for myself, because I've been doing this so long that naturally people call my phone and they're not gonna talk to anybody else. They want to talk to me. They were sent to me. They want me to focus on whatever it is that they've got going on. And so, I needed to be able to do that and do other things within the business. And so I said, hey, let's bring this gentleman in. I trust him. I believe that he can get the job done. And he's been focused on so we go out, we complete a checklist, right? We've got a start to finish. We go get our photos. We go get the information, the needs that are needing to be met. We go get whatever measurements that are needing to be on the job so that we can get accurate, materials and labor pricing. And we get all this information over that gentleman builds this estimate out for us. He sees everything, all our requests that we've gotten to him. And he comes back and says, hey, the estimate's ready. Go in, have a look at it. If you got any questions about it, let me know. Or he'll even go as far as to, hey, I'll just send it off to your customer. Our system kicks it back when our homeowner opens up that email and it says, hey, this person has read and reviewed this email. And we can go in and then we can say, hey, you've seen this, we want to go over it with you. Have you got any questions about this estimate? Or, I try not to, when I tell the other guys, once that email's been opened, don't immediately go in and attack, but wait a little bit. And if you don't hear back from them that day, give them a call the next day and let them know, I want to go over, did you have a chance to look at that estimate? And it's worked, number one, because it's taken a lot of the load off of us, feeling like we have to be the estimator, the project manager, the accounts receivable, and so many other hats that we wear out here on a day-to-day basis. And it's also allowed us to control our margins because we know that his job is focused and it's centralized around being profitable. And so, and profit should never be a bad word in what we do. It's how we run good, healthy businesses. So he goes in and he sees, this is what we're about to go do. This is what we're needing to do. And he presents our most accurate estimate. And we went from scrambling, feeling like we were running in a hamster wheel for the longest of time, and even ending up in positions where it's like, man, we just did that job and there was nothing in it for us. And it was all just because the person that was estimating for it just was not educated enough to see maybe some of the things that were coming down the road, right? Some of the stuff that isn't always there until you open that can of worms up. And so we found ourselves losing, whereas now we haven't, all year in the year of 2026, haven't had a single month with a job that went backwards, that went into like a negative amount. We've held our margins, and that allows us to run a business. As a business owner, you have got to know your numbers. If you do not know your numbers, you are in big trouble. Sales will flow. Everyone wants sales. They want to go get sales. It floats the boat for a very, very short period of time. But if you don't know what's coming in and out, then it doesn't tell you, you don't really know where you are as a business. And so having that estimator in a position that he's in allows us to know confidently when we go sell a job, hey, we're going in and we're set up for success each and every single time. He's done a great job.
We do the same thing as well, but I think another thing it allows you to do is your team who's interacting with the customers can interact with more customers because they're not sitting at their desk doing paperwork.
That's exactly right. Exactly.
Or better serve the customer and be more involved with the process it's ideal, obviously. So, okay, tell me, it might be a book you read, it might be a mentor, it might be a podcast, it could be a lot of things, but what's one thing you learned from a book or a podcast or a mentor that you successfully implemented in your business?
A mentor who is my father, and value. He's been a big part of my life. Lucky for anyone that hasn't had a father or a dad in their life, man, or a figure. Sorry for you. But anyways, he said to me, he said, son, success, you'll find 90% preparation, 10% timing. And I think, we talk about the sale all the time, and winning that sale it's what you do leading up to that point to win that sale. And so I think that has been pretty big in what we do and everything that we do leading up to the point of where we get paid.
So when I also think it goes to, tell me if you agree with this, the successful companies I see, you go to these summits or you go visit with contractors and they're always talking about lead generation. They're always talking about sales, always be closing, closing techniques, all of those things. I truly believe that the number one thing a company can do to continue to grow is focus on the customer experience and how you deliver your services. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. You hear people, if you've never heard the term before, that one satisfied customer will go tell 5-10 people about you, and they'll bring a good book of business. One customer that was neglected and mistreated and didn't get their needs met and things were not focused and centralized around them will go tell 100 people. They'll go tell 1,000 people. They'll do everything they can to make sure that, they let the next person know that you weren't qualified. You didn't meet their needs. I go and I look at, and I don't believe that every single client can be satisfied. And I've been doing it long enough to say that. I believe that there are situations where you can't get things to line. But 9 times out of 10, a ticked off customer, somebody that didn't get their needs met, came down to poor communication somewhere along the line. Whether it happened because you didn't inform the customer when those materials were going to show up, or you didn't explain the process of, at the end when the job's done, how all the cleanup and when that container's getting pulled out of the driveway. I mean, I come all the way down to showing up on time. I was always told growing up, you show up on time, you're late. Show up 5-10 minutes early. If really treat your customer and show them that you care. It's not just about a paycheck. It's you do care. You want to be there. And a lot of times, like I said, that'll yield new business. That'll yield your next job. They don't forget about you. They I got a lot of customers that I've met years ago that I did work for. They'll just call me around a holiday, or hit me up at the beginning of the year just to check in, just to pop in. I got guys I go play golf with. Those are customers, they last for forever. So to your point, and I know that was a little long-winded, but yeah, 100%. Got to be focused and meet the customer's needs at all times. Yep.
And I think your point, there's some people, I think it's really important contractors understand. I think too many contractors, when there's a customer upset, they don't look inward at all. They just say, this is a customer, I just can't work with them. They don't try to see what could we have done better. And that's something we really focus on. Every contractor needs to know.
What's the word? Accountability?
Yeah, accountability. But they also need to know that there are some people, no matter what you do, I've done everything I possibly could for a few customers, and there's no way I can make them happy. And there's just no way. The good thing is, most people that know that person know that about that person. So sometimes you're going to have that customer you just can't make happy, and you have to learn, do whatever you can, and then go on and make the next one, and just keep focusing on your customer's experience. But I find that, I used to go, it's kind of funny, I used to go to happy hour on Friday at a particular bar with a group of friends, and there was this group showed up, and it was like 30 contractors, and they'd be at this big table. The only thing I ever heard was them telling me how bad I wasn't sitting with them, but I was paying attention. The only stories they had were about how bad their customers are. And I just wanted to sit down at the table and say, guys, you got to start looking inward. But it can't be that every one of your customers is bad. There's got to be something that's creating that. You can't just I hear you guys every week, and it's just constant, my customers are terrible. It just can't be that way. You got to look inside, and it could be that. I didn't call and tell them material. Everything that you said, you already covered it. It could be something as small as you showed up 2 hours late, and that can start it off bad. But I just find that a lot of contractors are not good at looking inward.
That's what I would have looked at them and said, hey, do you enjoy what you do?
Yeah.
Like, do you because if you don't enjoy what you do, then it makes sense. Right. And I think, you gotta have a love for what you do. And, I think that's something that in-house with us is you're not going to talk to anybody that doesn't enjoy a day or a week or a month or a quarter or a year with us. That's nice to have. So, and our customers feel that too. They get that. They're treated fairly, and they can count on us. They can rely on us. If you go look at the positive feedback that we have, and we've even had customers say, "Man, you paid for those. We didn't pay for those reviews. Those are all genuine experiences that people had with us." And it all comes down to us. It starts with us to show that customer that we're eager to take care of them.
What's one uncomfortable truth about growing a contracting business?
I would say that it's the demands, you've got to be flexible and be willing to pivot. because at any time, something you think you're headed one direction, and you've got to adjust, and you got to go be able to bend, and be able to bounce back. I mean, it is not easy. It is not an easy market. It is not an easy industry. Um, I think that we talked about it earlier, which is finding the ways to separate yourself from everybody else. Um, I think that those initial growing pains, that makes it hard.
Did you? Is there a particular lesson you've learned now? Had you known it sooner, would have saved you a ton of time?
Absolutely. You don't need 100 guys in the field to build a profitable, successful business. You just need a solid bunch, because you can't do it on your own. I mean, you can't. It takes a team of people, and especially if you want to develop high levels of sales and you want to bring in a stout income. You need people out there working to do that with you, but it doesn't take 100. And I did not learn that until about a year and a half ago. I was up on a project, needed some additional last minute material. It was calling for some metal detail material. So we're hopping online immediately, what Google metal roofing material near me. Well, up comes the closest one around the corner, and we pop it in the GPS and we go in there and we pull up, and down at the bottom of the hill was a real cool setup. They actually had like big old warehouse. They've got forklifts sitting around. I'm like, these people got it going on. Well, I go sit down inside and get invoiced for the material that we needed to pick up, because not only were they an exterior company, but they were running a metal fabrication company out of there. And I said, man, you guys must have like 100 plus sales guys here to have the operation this big. And they come back and tell me four guys, 4 sales guys out there. And that right there was just really eye-opening. And it was right around that time that we were making some adjustments internally with our sales team and how we were, our strategy there. And it just gave me a real peace of mind that says, man, when I look around and I look who I've got with me right now, they're all I need. If we continue to do what we do, I tell my wife all the time, I'm so thankful for what it is that we have, and nothing ever changed. If it just stayed like this, man, I'd be happy. I'd raise my 3 children and die peacefully, and to know that as long as you've got a few guys that are alongside of you, they're, again, looking through the same lens, seeing the same vision, that's all you need to grow a successful business. That's it.
Everybody thinks, as far as salespeople go, I got some companies in our market, I know what they do in revenue, and they got 15 salespeople. I'm like, how is anybody making a living? If you're doing $3 million in revenue and you got 15 sales, I mean, how? I just don't understand it. I don't understand why a lot of people focus on, and then they'll get leads, they'll do leads, buy leads that are not that great, and they burn out the salespeople because they're getting certain leads and they're just chasing their tails and stuff. But we're going to do about 20 million this year, and we have 5 salespeople. And we do commercial and stuff. So we don't, and all the salespeople and everybody that works for us is doing well, I think, overall. We try to compensate with benefits and everything pretty well.
Sure. Likewise. Yeah.
So,
seeing your team win is always, that's one of the best feelings, because that when they're doing good, when those guys are taken care of and they're bringing in a good revenue, then that your business is working and staying busy too. So, to see them do good, it's assuring that, it tells us that the business is bringing in, what it needs to. We've got a saying in-house that if we get 100% of the business that we were intended to have, we don't have to go out there and force it, or, you'll be one of those companies that's like, man, we're just aggressive. We go out here and And we don't take no for an answer. It's not really that's not my tactic. We want to be where we're welcomed. And that's what we try to do.
Agree 100%. So we're going to end it with a segment that we're starting, and it's called Steal the System. So we've talked about a couple. Maybe there's another one you've implemented that other contractors could steal.
If you don't have a quality CRM system set up, I strongly encourage that to be done. And I can't take any credit for the development of those softwares. There's a few of them out there. You've got, I know that RoofR will actually help. It's a measuring tool that'll actually help with some CRM, customer relations management software. AccuLynx is a big one. Job Nimbus is another one. We prefer right now currently, again, not paid by any of these guys, but Job Nimbus is who we use. It seemed to work well with what we do, so that everything is, we build a story with that job from start to finish, and we hold it. And if later on down the road somebody calls, or some adjustments or changes need to be made, we can go back to that job file and pull up all that information. If you're trying to do everything from a pen and paper, type scenario, and it's going to be a little slower, probably behind the curve. So get in with a good customer relations management software would be my encouragement.
And you, Job Nimbus. Now, I've talked to a couple people, and I haven't done the research yet. I want to look it up because Job Nimbus does come up a lot. Do you have the ability to do like marketing through that too, or is it pretty much a production?
It is mainly, it's mainly a really production and accounts, payables, receivables, invoicing, stuff like that. It syncs and communicates with all our measuring tools. It communicates with all of our estimating, any legal documentation, or special request forms or anything like that. That's what that program does.
Okay.
It's going to be for tech side of things, but it can be set up to where it will launch, mass emails on a schedule. We just now got into like a mailer. I know that Megan's been handling some mailers, some email mailers.
The one thing that I always recommend, and this is when we were using Market Sharp for a while. Now we have our own not trademark, but we have our own licensed CRM that we use with our clients and us. The one thing that I always recommend is if there is the marketing function, we do a drip campaign. So let's say, for example, at the point where you send out your quote, you can have it set to automatically tell the salesperson, this is what we can do. And like I said, you can have your wife look into it, see if you can do it, but have it set to where your salespersons get notified, hey, I need to make this call. And then maybe 4 days later, you send out something of value to that customer. Maybe it's a cost versus value analysis, or it's I send one out choosing the right contractor. It's a video to all my salespeople. It's a video of me shortly introducing the concept of how this is an important decision, and then we have a PDF they can read and what to look for with the right contractor. So we have it. It's a 12-month long drip campaign, and that has really taken us to another level over the years. And that's an idea I always try to talk to clients about. And I'm going to look into Job Nimbus because a lot of people are using it, but that's just the recommendation potentially for your wife to look into, because it can make some things automatically happen, and you don't have to worry about it all every day.
Yeah, we're all different, right? When it comes to a business. And so having that system available to where you can kind of tailor it towards what you do, because we may have different steps that work for us that may not work for the way that somebody's doing something else. And so to go in and you can go in and line up the different gates that you typically move your jobs through. And there might be a step or a stage that another company has that it would be very helpful if they could take during their process and log it into that gate, stick it there until it's ready to be moved to whatever next one. It allows you to do that. And so that's what I really have enjoyed about that tool. I've used some other, larger softwares as well. There's rumor around, I don't know if it's true or not, don't hold me to it, but that another larger software had sold out to the insurance company. And so now all that data and all that information, all the customers and all the claim information now belonging to the insurance company. So that drove a lot of people away from, I believe, that particular CRM, and put, that's kind of why we made a little bit of the move that we made. But it also worked for us. It worked for us on a financial side as well too. It was substantially more affordable, and it also helped us, like I said, tailor some of the steps and processes that we have and customize it so that everybody knows. Like I said, from start to finish, every job is doing the same thing. We're not just doing something different over here and doing something different over here and doing something different. You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
creates a lot of confusion internally. And it's how you can miss things out in the field as well too.
You were talking about your father, and he works with you, doesn't he?
He does work with us. Yeah, he's
Oh,
a
that's
mortgage broker. He's got a background in plant management and operations management. He's helped grow and develop some other companies. I would say he's probably a little more reserved than I am. I'm a little more. I was the wild child growing up and taking risk, and so, but he's enjoyed being a part of it. With managing, making sure we're budgeting. We're already looking at 2027 right now, and trying to come up with a game plan for that. So he's a big part of that, controlling, making sure that everybody's compliant. A lot of compliance, making sure he's controlling compliance. He's been a big part of my life growing up, and then stepping out of what's to know be corporate America, and then feeling like you're in that dead end job type atmosphere, was a big part of that transition for me. And so yeah, it's been good having him.
Well, Ryan, I think we're going to end it here. I really, really enjoyed it. You had a lot of good insight. I think a lot of contractors could take to heart. Do you have any quote or anything you want to end with?
No, but I got a question for you. So, and it kind of was one that you had asked me. What was, as you were developing your company, what was the biggest hurdle that you felt like you had to step over to get over, and how'd you do that?
I think the biggest hurdle was all throughout early years, I was always told, keep your expenses down. Consider everything an expense and money that you're taking out of your own pocket. And I think the philosophical change to start looking at when you hire people, that's an investment. Get the good people, be willing to pay for the good people, and trucks and advertising and all those things are an investment. They're not expenses. And when I started thinking I'm going to build a business, that was one philosophical change that really helped me. The biggest one, though, the hardest thing for me to break through, and trust me, I still beat my head into this wall every once in a while, is just allowing my team to do their thing. That's still, it's hard. So what I implemented, so when I first started letting people do things, I was sleeping even less. My mind was constantly like, what's going on? Where are we at? And so I finally said, I got to figure something out that's going to allow me not to know everything on a daily basis. And so what I implemented, and people find this crazy, and it's my favorite thing to do, to be honest, I call every completed project. About 30 days after, I call every completed project. Now I'm doing 30 days. I used to do sooner. 30 days I found is if an issue arises, we're going to know about it by then and we can fix it. Most contractors don't want to call because they don't want to be told there's an issue because they don't want to have to go fix it. So I call every completed project and I say two things. I say, three things. How'd it go? What could we have done better? And thank you for your business. Mm-hmm. And when I first called that customer, they think they're in trouble or something. They're just like, their voice like, yeah, what's going on? And I'm like, I'm just calling to do it. And that's been the way I've been able to pull myself out of. I couldn't tell you what jobs we're doing today. We probably got 15 or 20 going on around, but I couldn't tell you where. Well, I do know one. I do know one where one of our crews is. But other than that, I have no idea what we're doing today. So, and I'm not involved in production meetings at all. Right. I'm really an owner, but I still do a lot of sales activity. I still run a lot of appointments because that's what I want to do and that's what I enjoy.
Yeah, likewise. Very similar, man. I appreciate you sharing that. Thank you.
So
yeah, I would say finally a quote that I'd leave you with, and for anyone that's watching and trying to work to, maybe get out of that rut or take their business, to the next level is It's not about how much you make, it's how much you spend. And that saving is just like earning. And you were just saying that, when you're talking about expenses and wraps and so, those are expenses, and looking at those as that expense and being able to separate those and knowing, when we talk about numbers and stuff like that, knowing where your expenses are. So look at that, not we always hear, I do $1 million a month in sales, or I do $20 million a year. I always want to dive a little deeper and see, okay, well, what's at that bottom line? How'd you end up there?
There's a lot of companies that have good revenue streams, but if you ever got to pull the books out, you'll see a different story. There's tons of companies. I think if I remember right, I did a video on our Instagram and Facebook or YouTube in reference to that subject, that some businesses, or it's coming out soon, I can't remember, but we did one on that yeah, you might have the revenue and everything, but do you know your numbers? Are you really healthy? And a lot of companies, if we asked, they wouldn't be able to tell us anything. They on the financial side, and that's why I still to this day, in every single job is broken down, and we find out what our margin is on every single job, and we try to find, okay, so why did this one come in here? Mm-hmm. And I'm not like you. In 2026, I had jobs that went into the negative, I think. So I have, but we figure it out, and we can get it fixed and move on. And
that's it.
The whole philosophy of 10 years ago, if you knew me and we had a problem, I was much more reactionary and everything, but now my philosophy's completely changed. I think problems are only an opportunity to grow. And
isn't that the truth?
Yeah, I try not to get upset. I try to tell myself, hey, this is our opportunity to get better.
Yep. And you go in, you dive in, you look at systems and you talk about systems and developing those take years. A good healthy business I still say we're developing systems. In 5 years from now, we'll still be working on developing systems. And some of the best systems are developed through either an error that happened or something unforeseen. It just popped up and it's like, wow, we don't ever want to see that one happen again. Put a system into place, or we want to see more, maybe on the positive side, we want to see more of that. Mm-hmm. Put that system into place helps us get more of that. And so I think good systems can be, that's where if you feel like you're having a hard time, just hang in there, get through it, get through the growing pains, and those good systems, they'll continue to develop and they'll continue to come.
Well, perfect. Ryan, again, thank you very much. Let's keep in touch. And if I can help in any way or anything, just let me know.
Likewise. We'll stay in touch.
Okay.
Thanks again.
Sounds good. Right. Thank you.
Take care. Yep.